Yes.
Hey James, one thing about you and Kyrie and KD, as it pertains to you guys' offensive talent, is that you guys can kind of tell what the defense is going to do before they do it. How do you think that is going to help guys like Joe, guys like DeAndre, when the defense can't really help off of, we saw today, defense can't help off of Joe. He's going to hit a three. Defense can't help off of the guy down low. You got to throw the lob up top. How does that make this team better that you guys all know what the defense is going to do and they can't really double you?
Once we go through every scenario, and it's only maybe 4 or 5 that teams can really do against us, and throughout the course of the year that's going to happen, once we figure out, okay, they're doing this tonight, this is how we attack it, or they're doing this tonight, this is how we attack it. Once we get that, it's basically up to us. And I'm so excited for Kai to get back. He's a key piece to what we're trying to do, and the chemistry. As soon as we can build that, as soon as we can be on the court.
No matter what sport you look at, I ain't seen this kind of offensive firepower. Now I'm wondering who's going to play defense. I'm wondering who's going to toughen Brooklyn up. And certainly they could be had by Milwaukee, by Philadelphia. Yeah, they could be had. I don't think Boston's deep enough. I don't think Miami's got the talent. And I don't think Toronto has the talent anymore either. So it would be about Philadelphia and Milwaukee as being the primary threats to knock them off. But points win games. And when you got that kind of offensive power, particularly with the ability for Kevin Durant to close, to me, it's a trip to the finals or bust. You might have an excuse to lose to the Lakers and whatever, but I don't see any excuse why Brooklyn, if they get their act together, should not come out of the East. There really is no excuse for this.
SA, you just gave the biggest caveat. If they get their act together, if you're Steve Nash, how the hell do you manage all these personalities?
I don't think. First of all, I think he's going to have the help of Kevin Durant, and I honestly don't believe James Harden is going to be a problem. I think James Harden gets a bad rap in this respect. You know what? Yeah, he wants his players. He wanted Dwight, and then he didn't. He wanted CP3, and then he didn't. He wanted Russell Westbrook, and then that didn't work out. He dribbles the damn ball too much. I get all of that. But this dude has averaged at least 30 a game the last 3 years, at least 29 a game the last 4, at least 28 a game the last 5. This dude is a sensational offensive player, and here's the biggest thing about him. You know this, Jay. He don't believe in load management. This dude don't take nights off. That's not what he did. We were shocked at the way he's played over the last 5 games because we know better, and we know what he was trying to do, and we're disappointed that he would go that route, particularly throwing his own teammates under the bus, because that's not who we know him to be. But outside of that, you know that James Harden is going to come to play. And now that he's taken the shrapnel of criticism that's been thrown in his direction, I think he's going to be more motivated than ever before. He knows he's on a legitimate title contender, that they're legitimate favorites in some people's eyes because of the talent they assembled. And he knows that if he doesn't win here, it'll look worse than when he didn't win in Houston because he didn't have Kevin Durant as his teammate. The key is Kyrie Irving. And there's some problems going on there. Let's just call it what it is. We don't know what the hell it is, and even if we did know, we wouldn't say if it was something personal because that's none of our damn business. But the bottom line is Kyrie don't seem all there. Literally, figuratively, mentally, spiritually, he's just in another place other than Brooklyn. And I don't know if that's on Steve Nash to resolve. That's on Kevin Durant because this is Kevin Durant's team. You know better than anybody, Jay Williams, that Kyrie Irving wouldn't be in Brooklyn if it were not for Kevin Durant. They brought Kyrie Irving there because Kevin Durant made it clear he wanted Kyrie Irving there with him. That is why Kyrie Irving is there. So now the onus is on KD to handle that situation with Kyrie or to support the Brooklyn Nets if they decide to go in a different direction than Kyrie. Kevin Durant needs to sign off on that, and he needs to also make things happen with or without Kyrie. That's what he's got to do.
Stephen A. Smith, First Take, host of Stephen A.'s World. You can catch it on ESPN Plus. Stephen A., let me ask you this though, in terms of the Brooklyn Nets trio, is this trio better than the Splash Brothers with KD?
No, hell no, absolutely not.
Talent-wise, Stephen A.,
KD,
talent-wise? Talent-wise, they're not? I'm not saying the way it works out, but talent-wise, sheer talent?
Jay, I'm thinking about 2 things. Number one, do you know of a better shooting trio, arguably in NBA history, than Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant? The answer would be no. And we all know that Klay plays defense, okay? And we all know that it's hard. Who's going to sacrifice? Klay Thompson sacrificed in Golden State. Chris Bosh sacrificed in Miami. Ray Allen sacrificed in Boston. Who's going to be the third wheel, and who's going to accept and embrace that role and make the necessary sacrifices? That's the huge question. I understand you're talking about talent, but I'm just basically getting to the bottom line. Like, for example, nobody has a better handle than Kyrie Irving. And Kyrie Irving can shoot, and he can score on anybody. He can finish at the basket. I think that Steph Curry is the greatest shooter in the history of mankind.
Agreed.
And I think that Klay Thompson is one of the top 5 shooters in NBA history. And I think that Kevin Durant is one of the top 5 scorers in the history of basketball. I don't think it's blasphemous or sacrilegious to sit up there and say, as great as Kyrie is, as great as James Harden is, as great as Kevin Durant is, that they are not more talented than Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and KD together. I don't believe it.
But see,
Because then it comes down to Harden and Kyrie. So is Harden and Kyrie better than the Splash Brothers? I would tell you, as shooters, hell no.
Well, I mean, as gifted players, though, I mean, depending upon what system, here's what I will say. I think James Harden, SA, gets the wrong look here, right? Because he's been on a team where he's had to be the guy with the system he's been provided to drop 35, 40 points every night. So everybody automatically assumes, how's it going to work? He's going to dribble the ball all the time. He will acquiesce. He can be a pass guard that can still score and play off these other two guys.
I agree. I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, I think that you're absolutely 100% right about James Harden. People ignore the fact that he registers assists. Even when he was playing like garbage because he didn't want to be there, he was still averaging 10 assists a game. This dude can do what he wants to do, and he's shown incredible unselfishness in the past. Remember when he was in OKC, he was basically the backup point guard. You're in Houston. I've seen many times when he set up other guys to score. I'm not questioning the talent and the greatness of James Harden. I'm just saying that Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are such marksmen. I think it's the likes of which we've never seen. They're the greatest shooting backcourt in history. And Steph Curry is the greatest shooting backcourt known to man. And there's not a human being that I've ever seen that can shoot better than Steph Curry. Ever. Standing still, spot up, jump shot, set shot, corner, wing, key, the other wing. It don't matter. 30 feet, 40 feet, 50 feet, 20 feet. It doesn't matter. This dude is the greatest shooter I have ever seen with my 2 eyes.
Me too. He's better than me.
The entire Eastern Conference, Jay, revolved around Giannis. 2-time MVP. He was also the Defensive Player of the Year, top seed, trying to win their first championship in 50 years, got the Supermax. Let's build around him. What do you want? We go from all of that, the entire axis of the Eastern Conference revolving around Giannis. By the way, now the planets are revolving around another team. How quickly it can change.
Yeah, and I actually think, Milwaukee's been playing really good basketball as of late. Won 3 games in a row. I will say that the Bogdan Bogdanović deal that didn't go through, where he ended up going to another team, to the Atlanta Hawks, I think ultimately could hinder this team from getting out of the East. Now, look, there's always going to be that question, how does Giannis handle things down the stretch as far as making big shots? Can Drew Holiday, can Chris Middleton, can those guys be the clutch players that Milwaukee needs? I still think they will be there, but the Nets will be by far the favorite in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, by far. It's not. I mean, they're bringing in Harden. You get Kyrie back, and I didn't think that they were far off without James Harden. I felt like that the Nets would probably be the team to come out of the East in the first place. But now the question begs of what's going to go through Giannis's mind when, in fact, he looks up at the end of the season and they're not in a position to make a strong run for a championship, or they get bounced in the playoffs early. What clicks to his mind when he's now signed a long-term extension? They went out there and got a player for him. And so Drew Holiday is now in the mix. What happens? Where does his mind go? Should he have not signed the extension? Should I have waited? Should I have looked to go to another team with more players? Because people aren't going to come here in free agency?
We'll dig into it further. Go ahead, Jay.
I just want to explain to people, who, and I understand everybody has to be quote unquote professional, but just because you sign a 5-year deal does not mean that you have a 5-year commitment to one team. You have a 5-year commitment to the money that you signed for. I just want to specify, this is a new age. We've seen Kawhi Leonard get out of a situation. We've seen Anthony Davis get out of a situation. We've now seen James Harden get out of a situation. We will continue to have conversations about people like Bradley Beal, who is in Washington, who there have been stuff about, could he be a Laker? Could he force his way out of Washington? And I said it the moment it happened. Just because Giannis signed a 5-year deal with Milwaukee to be the highest paid player in North American sports does not mean that he will be with Milwaukee for 5 years if their front office and team cannot put him in a position to win a world championship. That is the reality of where we are in today's NBA, where player empowerment, players can get to where they want to be.
Yeah, but though everybody that we talk about in player empowerment and signing supermax deals or long-term extensions, they don't ask to be out after one season. That one season would be a bit much. You got to kind of, if he was to go walk in there after this season and be like, yo, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want this anymore. You just signed a max deal, man, like 7 months ago. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Now, if he did it 2.5 years from now, I think that.
So, Keith, what if 2 years they don't get out of the Eastern semifinals?
Yeah, down the frustration, 2 years. Yeah, the frustration, 2 years. But not after one season.
Yeah, I never said one
No,
season.
I'm just saying, not after. I wanted to make it clear, and we're not talking about after one season. You're talking about down the line. Down the line, of course. But after 1 year, 2 years, it would probably be a PR nightmare for him, considering that he said what he said about wanting to be, this is my home, this is my town, I want to be here. And then you look up, 24 months later, and you're talking about you want to get out.
There's no doubt about it. And Jay made up the most interesting point of all. You're right. It's the age of player empowerment. Just a reminder that as of yesterday, the Houston Rockets controlled James Harden's rights for the next 2 years. 24 hours later, that whole thing blew up. Very interesting point there by Jay. And probably, as Jay said, it's the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the biggest names in basketball. If they want out, as Keyshawn has said, in any sport, if they want out,